You are listening to In the Books. We're a podcast where we discuss book-to-screen adaptations, and shall we get squiffy and talk about girls?
Yes.
I'm down.
I'm Michelle. I live in the States. You can find me at Musings on Instagram.
And I'm Rita, and I'm at Annoying Rita on Instagram. That used to be so much longer when we were on more social media platforms, but you know.
I know, right? And we are back to discuss episode 2 of My Lady Jane, titled Wild Thing.
Da, 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 da.
Which, having watched the episode, takes on so many new meanings.
Yes.
This was directed by Jamie Babbitt and written by Gemma Burgess. And man, was it a wild ride. So let's begin, as we usually do, with a recap.
This episode began with Jane strapped into a table being quote-unquote examined by Dr. Butts, whose name gets funnier the more I say it.
Yes.
Long story short, he doesn't think she has the affliction, but he does want to bleed her and then feed her a sausage made of her own blood. So Jane declares herself miraculously healed. And then proceeds with the wedding ceremony, and before she knows it, she is drinking wine at her wedding feast and insulting and flirting equal parts with her new husband. Frances pulls Jane aside to give her another reality check. She tells her daughter to stop playing games and realise that her marriage can actually be empowering. She far outranks Guildford. Apparently his father was an accountant. Which I didn't know existed. So, Jane's great-grandfather was the King of England, a.k.a. Henry VII.
Yes.
Henry Tudor. That'll do. So Jane actually has a lot of leverage in this marriage, but she is far too butthurt, I think is the official term, to listen to her mother. Across the room, Guildford is having his own uncomfortable chat with his father, who's basically like, boy, you have to consummate the heck out of this thing immediately.
Now. We then cut to Stan and Frances, who commiserate over their dead/plague-ridden partners. Back over at the head table, Jane watches her hubby down a glass of wine and offers him a withering look. He sarcastically replies to consider himself withered.
It's so much fun.
Oh my god. He asks her how she faked the blood, but she insists that she has the affliction crawling all over her lungs. And, hey, now that they're married, he can catch it and they'll both die. Guildford has his fingers crossed. They are interrupted by a low-key insulting speech by Lord Dudley, in which he calls his son a rascal and Jane unpopular, but he remarks that there is a key for every lock. Wink, wink.
Of course, it's phallic in nature.
Nudge, nudge. Mm-hmm. And he makes everyone raise a glass to the Pure Verity Union. His terrible speech is fathered by a much nicer one by Princess Elizabeth, who offers not just her blessing, but those of her sick brother. And she reminds everyone joking about his imminent death that to speak of His Majesty's death is treason, even in jest. Over at the palace, Edward dismisses his counsel so he can speak alone to Petunia, his dog/woman friend. She tells him that they can find the poisoner by finding the source of the poison. To dogs, it smells like rotting flesh and poo-poo. Tomorrow morning, they plan to trace the poison, and when they find the poisoner, Edward promises to meet his granny.
Honestly, if you lived in Tudor England, the smell of rotting flesh and poo-poo must be quite prevalent.
I would think so.
It doesn't seem that distinct.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
Back at the wedding feast, Jane is contemplating the impending bedding ceremony.
Ugh.
Yes, we forgot about the bedding ceremony.
Yeah.
With equal parts dread and horniness. And of course, her little sister senses this and decides to start a chant of Kiss!
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 Kiss! Kiss! The crowd joins in, and before you can say it's only episode 2, Guilford is swooping her into his arms and bending her down. Jane puckers up for a kiss that never comes. The whole crowd gives a disappointed groan, and Guilford whispers, as if, with the conviction of Alicia Silverstone in Clueless.
Yes!
Across the room, Catherine Gray makes heart eyes at an age-appropriate boy. We approve, but before we can find out what happens there, we cut to Jane, following and catching a handsome thief. He is Ethan. He is a cat. Stuff happens. So she asks if he knows a woman named Susanna. This Ethan dude takes offence at the idea that they all know each other.
Of course.
And shapeshifts back into the cat and scampers, leaving Jane clearing up the pile of coins he was trying to steal. That's where Guilford finds her. She tells him she should use that money to fund her freedom, as it's obvious the marriages are never going to last. At least 9 days, I think.
Yes.
He asks her why she agreed to marry him. Brutally honest, she tells him she needed the money, and she wanted to save her sister Catherine from an ancient duke who smells like a forgotten chamber pot.
Yes.
A lot of smelly language
I know.
this episode. There's a very awkward moment where Jane tries to sassily insist that she's never smelled Guilford and never plans to, but it falls a bit flat. It's a bit cringe.
Yeah, it is. The couple are interrupted by their family and dragged off to their bedchamber for the much-anticipated bedding ceremony, but not before Lord Dudley yet again insists that Guilford seals the deal. They don't want to give Jane any grounds for annulment. Anyway, the song Tainted Love is playing in the background.
Perfect.
And the newlyweds are being helped to undress by their respective families. Frances tries giving Jane a last-minute talk about the marital bed, which a furious Jane refuses. So she is left with the immortal words, hold anything firm, firmly, and anything soft, softly. Oh my God.
Icon.
Oh my God. And Frances shoves her onto the bed. A room of people laugh and clap as Jane and Guilford frock their legs together about under the sheets to make it look as if they're fucking. And eventually, everyone leaves the room. Once they are alone, Guilford attempts to open up emotionally to Jane, but things deteriorate very quickly, and before you can say annulment, they are insulting and tossing water at each other. It's giving juvenile, and Jane storms out of the room and slams the door only to realize she has locked herself in a cupboard. Does Guilford let her out? As if.
Excellent impression.
Why, thank you.
We then cut to Frances, who's riding Stanley to completion. Well, at least has.
Yes.
Stanley is left hanging, and honestly, good for her. That's the moment I knew I would die for her. She is untangling her hair, and when she notices a damp spot on the ceiling of the Dudley Hall,
You.
She now begins to worry that the Dudleys are broke, and blows Stanley for any details on that situation, and it's fair to assume that Stanley is very forthcoming. He will spill his guts.
Yes. Just as he's...
Yeah. I think everyone gets the picture. We then cut to the palace. Mary watches as Lord Seymour bathes. Thank you to whoever decided to have naked Dominic Cooper emerge from that tub, by the way.
Yes.
You're my hero. Anywho, Lord Seymour assumes that once Mary is queen, she will honour him with a betrothal. Oh, honey. But until that time, he offers her a token of his affection, a gigantic ring. Mary refuses it and instead takes his signet ring off his finger and plans to wear it on a chain around her neck as a symbol of love and fidelity or something. It's very bizarre. She then takes the ring and starts doing unspeakable things to it with her tongue that are just imprinted. Like, oh, I can see it now. Make it stop. Anyway, The next morning, a servant lets Jane out of the closet. She also scolds her for having her hair down when her husband isn't around. She obviously listens to the podcast.
Yes.
She then goes on a rant about the importance of marital purposes. Quote, if you don't get it, then all the fluids and vapours build up and cause fits. I knew a widow from Exeter who missed marital purposes so much that her eyes exploded, and then she died. End quote. Sounds legit.
Yeah.
Jane is like, speaking of marital purposes, where's my husband? She's pointed towards the stables.
Jane finds her husband in the stables, all right, and he is showing nude in a moment I can only describe as obscene.
Wow. Thing.
Water is pouring down his body in slow motion as Wild Thing plays in the background, and Jane openly gapes.
Fair enough.
She snaps herself out of it and starts yelling at him for leaving her all night, and he calls her a numpty for locking herself inside the cabinet. Oh, but before they can get any further into their sexual tension-filled argument, the sunrise pokes through the stable doors, and Guilford shifts into a horse. Wild Thing indeed. Jane freaks out, naturally, but Lord Dudley arrives just in time to explain the situation to her. Guilford can't control his Ethianism. It's sort of a horse by day, man by night thing. Kinda. Sort of. Lord Dudley then announces that she will be leaving for her honeymoon today so that she can adjust to this new reality of being married to a horse. Jane refuses at first, but he reminds her that the punishment for an Ethian verity intermarriage is death. The only thing she can do is put up and shut up. We then cut to Edward, who has snuck out of the palace grounds with Petunia dressed as a commoner. He is experiencing life without deference and privilege he's accustomed to in the market. Turns out, people are fucking rude. He approaches what he calls a flower peasant for a potion that might kill someone.
I love him so much.
At first, she tells him to bugger off, insisting she doesn't sell it, but when the doggy version of Petunia sniffs out a box she has in her stall, she is forced to admit she sold Tofana to a Burke with a creepy eyeball ring. She then flips them off and tells them to leave her in peace. They do, but not before Edward learns the meaning behind the gesture and gives it a try for himself. Aww, he's becoming a real boy. Aww.
I love him. I love him
I
so
do too.
much. So Jane is trying to get her head around the whole horse husband thing when she's approached by a very obnoxious Stanley making clumpy horse noises.
Bastard.
I love him.
He's so awesome.
He has a gift from the king. It's a wooden sword they used to play with as children. When she pulls the handle, a secret note pops out instructing her to meet Edward in the palace gardens. She does, and Edward tells her that his friend might have accidentally ingested Tofana. Jane winces. Tofana is the most lethal substance that there is, and even a small dose can kill you. She offers to stay and help his friend, but Edward doesn't want to abet her in an abdication of her wifely duties to a horse.
Dude.
Jane considers telling him about the whole horse husband thing, but instead they have this massive row and she storms off because that seems to be her go-to at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Edward goes to his throne room and announces to his courtiers that he is being poisoned. They all fall over their asses with promises to find and punish the poisoner. Edward thanks them, but warns that if they do not find someone, he will assume that they are all traitors, and every last one of them will be boiled alive.
Yikes!
He then flips them off and shouts, "Bugger off!" As the courtiers leave, they murmur amongst themselves. Lord Seymour tries to spin this as Edward's delusions brought on by his affliction and promises he will look into the whole poisoning thing himself. Seymour then runs to tell Mary that their plot has been uncovered. Mary is angry and decides that she needs to take charge. Seymour purrs with satisfaction. I had to rewind and watch him purring over and over again. It was hilarious.
Oh, the tortures that we go through.
Mary tells him to do exactly as she says. Elsewhere, Lord Dudley is also freaking out. He knows that there is a conspiracy against the king, but his priorities at the moment is to safeguard the will. He sends a reluctant Stanley, who is just trying to eat his blood in peace, to go to the Chancery and steal the will before it gets destroyed. We'll see.
Yeah. Jane and Guilford are sent off on their honeymoon. That means Jane is in the carriage while her husband is tied up to the back, clomping along.
Never not funny.
She still wants to run away, of course, so she offers to look after the carriage while the groomsmen go for a piss. The moment she is left alone, she is, of course, robbed by some crazy random dude with a stick. Guilford starts to neigh in impotent anger as Jane is shoved towards their chest of gold and forced to open it. When opened, she finds nothing but books. The thief, realizing Jane's the only valuable, present, attempts to abduct her. She hurls books at him violently until he shapeshifts into a goat and runs away.
My favourite bit was when he's like, "I've got a stick and I'm not afraid to use it."
Yes.
Okay.
A panicked Stanley runs to Francis when he can't find Edward's will. He went to the Chancery, but it was gone. He asks her what this means for them. Francis quite astutely observes that they are all fucked. We cut back to the palace where Lord Seymour announces he has found the identity of the poisoner. He then pulls a box of Tofana off of Lord Dudley. Edward ignores Dudley's pleas of innocence and sends him to the Tower. Edward then has a coughing fit. Mary moves to cover him with a blanket, but as she moves closer, Edward notices her wearing the eye ring he heard about earlier. Before he can say anything, he is unconscious. Jane arrives at their house for the night, and an intrigued Jane wonders why her supposed scoundrel of a husband has smuggled so many esoteric books on their honeymoon. Once nighttime hits and they are both human, she confronts him with questions like, "Why can't you change back?" And "Why did you swap our wedding gifts with books?" Guilford explains that he had heard she was smart and can cure people, so he hoped that she would use the knowledge in the books to cure him.
So Jane is surprised to realise that Guilford married her for her brain. But she is reluctant to try because she's not all that convinced that it's possible to cure him. All Guilford wants is for her to try, and when he has his cure, he will grant her a divorce. Of course, the entire time they are negotiating, the chemistry and sexual tension is rising between them. So annoying. When Guilford promises she needn't worry about marital obligations, Jane looks incredibly disappointed. Girl, that makes two of us. Over at the palace again, Edward wakes and realises he's been taken to the North Tower, and there's nothing in his room but a bed, a chair, and a window with a 40-foot drop. When his sister Mary knocks on the door, he panics, realising that she's probably come to finish off the job of poisoning him. So he tries to barricade the door with the chair while he thinks of an escape. Mary and Lord Seymour eventually ram the door open, and when they do, they cannot find Edward anywhere. They realise the window's open and assume that he has jumped to his death. They laugh joyously, declaring, "Edward's dead!" Outside, we see Edward's cloak floating in the moat, but suspiciously, no body. That boy's alive.
Yes, he is.
Okay, so That was episode 2. What did you think?
Oh, man.
I mean, delighted giggles kind of give it away.
This show does not disappoint at all. It, from the very beginning to the very end, it had me absolutely glued to the television and laughing most of the time. What a wonderful, wonderful show to watch, and to thoroughly enjoy. Yeah.
Really funny, really engaging, and there's no weak subplots.
Right.
Like, you've got Edward's quest to find his poisoner, really funny. Flower Peasant. Mary and
Bugger off.
Lord Seymour have, oh my god, they're so fucked up, but it's hilarious. Lord Dudley's terrible political manoeuvring is fascinating, because you're just like, of course Lord Seymour's going to frame you, you absolute idiot.
Of course.
Francis and Stanley, the plot twist that just kept on giving. It's just really fun. And I thought it was like even better on rewatch, actually, because you pick up on the little bits, like physical comedy and all that, like the bit where Lord Seymour purrs. I was like, how did I miss that the first time? It's amazing.
Yes. Oh my god. You can tell that these folks had so much fun while doing this show. Yeah, this was just wonderful from start to finish.
Okay, well, we need to talk about the horse reveal, the lying horse husband reveal, the greatest TV reveal in all of TV history.
You know, didn't I say last week that I thought he might be an Ethian?
You said you thought Jane might be an Ethian.
Oh, I thought Jane would be. Well, okay. We got one. Yay! And it was absolutely flawless that it turned out to be him. You know, the scene where they're in the barn and he's just going, "You need to leave. You need to leave now." You know, Jane, leave now. And then glimmer of sunshine and poof,
poof.
He becomes this majestic horse.
I do kind of wonder, though, if he spends 50% of his time as a horse, is he a human who turns into a horse, or is he a horse that turns into a human at that point? And how much of this is, like, bestiality at this point?
Oh, my lord.
Things I'm contemplating that I shouldn't have to.
No, that was an awesome twist, and the way that they wound up revealing it was perfect. I enjoyed, you know, all of their encounters leading up to that moment and beyond. You know, as you mentioned that, you know, during the time when they're negotiating, you know, the sexual tension is just like growing exponentially. These two and their chemistry, it needs to either be stopped or pushed forward. One of the two.
It's interesting because, like, they're not doing anything that outrageous to have this kind of... It's just banter, which is proof that if you write good enough dialogue, you can have amazing on-screen chemistry.
It's the sexiest thing ever.
It is.
If you have characters that are able to bounce off of one another with just the most perfect, riveting banter, you know, you could just sit there and watch that for an hour.
Sometimes it deteriorate into them like throwing water at each other. The bit where she just screamed, "Missed!" and then runs off like so childish. God, I love that.
You know, the scene where they're calling each other names in the bedroom, and he calls her a numpty. Oh my god!
I loved that.
I almost fell off the couch. But yeah, these two, their chemistry should be illegal. But thank God it isn't, because we get to enjoy it.
So I've got to admit, I actually knew he was a horse, and it was spoiled to me on Instagram, when the show was cancelled, Emily Bader posted a T-shirt that she got given as a gift, like as a gag gift at Christmas. And it's just a collage of picture of horses, and underneath it says "Horse Girl." And I was like, okay, I put two and two together, you know.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Oh my god.
I'd like to get that T-shirt, but then like have Guilford's face on top of the horse. Just to be more specific. So like him being a horse, funny, but also kind of explains the marriage. So Lord Dudley seems to have planned this whole marriage thing so that Jane, when she becomes the eventual Queen of England, can give Ethians more rights. Not because he actually seems to give a shit about Ethians' rights, he just wants his son to have more rights. Yeah. And then Guilford, on the side, is like, I don't want to be a Ethian. I just want you to cure me. So he's planning to have this marriage annulled. And it's just like very they've got conflicting reasons for agreeing to this marriage. Yes. That's going to be a complete clusterfuck. Do you think she can heal him? Because I feel like no.
I am. If anybody can, it's her. But you know, why would you do that?
Because I think they're going for like it's a metaphor for something about like a metaphor for a lot of different things. Oh, religion, sexuality, blah blah blah, outsiders of society being accepted, blah whatever.
I kind of hope she doesn't.
But he can't be a horse in the day. I want him to be able to control it. I don't necessarily want him to. Yeah. Yeah.
If she can get him to the point where he's able to control it, then that's cool. Win.
Yeah, but he wants it to just be completely gone. Mm-hmm. Which is fair, because he spends his entire day as a horse. So I imagine for him, very inconvenient. Yes. But he needs
like, you know, there are things that I need and want to do during the day, and I can't because
How is he not exhausted,
I'm a horse?
By the way? By the time they arrived at their destination, I was just like, surely he just wants to sleep. He's been galloping about all day.
Exactly, following around this carriage. Oh, Lord.
God. Just like, this is one of the things why I don't like fantasy. Because I start thinking about things like logically and with reason, and I'm like, yes, but it's magic. So if you can make somebody magical, you can take away their powers. But like, I don't think that works with the
with the whole whole Ethian thing. Yes,
Thank God he was. By the way, thank God he was a hot animal and not one of those disgusting animals.
Oh yeah, what if he happened to turn into, I don't know, any animal? I say there are going to be individuals that are like, what are you talking about? They're absolutely
what about, like,
adorable.
A skunk? That's like, nobody can really think skunks are cute. Surely they smell.
Oh gosh.
Or a rat.
Or a warthog. Or...
I feel like a rat, because they can carry the plague.
Oh yeah. His life would really be threatened if he was running around as a rat. Oh, yeah. No, he turned out to be a pretty damn good-looking horse.
I was like, sometimes when the horse was looking at her, I was like, I'm uncomfortable.
You control yourself, horse.
You're a horse right now. Like, yeah, and I wonder, like, how aware he is of things, because it felt like he could hear conversations. Mm-hmm. And it's weird. It's like, can he understand human dialogue when he's a horse? Apparently, yes.
Apparently so.
This is why I shouldn't be allowed around fantasy, because I've started to think about shit like, can he understand English? Dangerous territory. Yes. So let's move on. Okay. R.I.P. Edward.
quote unquote R.I.P. Edward.
It's good enough for Mary.
I hope not, because I just love him so much. I love him so much. His little field trip out into the village was an absolute delight.
I love how he's just like, you're being rude to me. Delightful.
Yes, delightful. I love it. Oh my God. When he refers to the woman selling flowers as a flower peasant.
Iconic.
Oh my God. So made of awesome.
This is a really clever way to keep him on the show, but still have the whole Edward's dead thing happen. Because you're wondering, like, are they really going to kill him off? No.
Oh my God.
He's definitely going to return. Hopefully.
Yeah, but what Jane tells him about this poison is kind of pretty awful. It's kind of like, this is whoever has this, even a little tiny itty bitty bit, they're dead. That would be, that would suck mightily.
Okay, I feel like there's magic, so somebody can just come along and heal him. They can just go, here's I've given you a potion and you're cured, Bling! Because every poison has an anti-poison. That's how that works. Yes. How do you think he escaped? Because I was imagining some kind of gigantic Ethian hawk coming along and like
picking him up and carrying him out there.
But I was like, that's not science, is it? Is there a bird big enough to carry him?
Unless her
maybe he slid down a giraffe.
Like her best friend, what was her name? Susanna?
Yeah, she was a hawk.
Yeah, she was a hawk. Maybe she can grow bigger.
None of this sounds legit. I don't know. Maybe one of the
magic. What the hell?
Ethians can turn into ladders as well. Something happened.
Oh, not sure.
What the fuck?
I can't wait to find out. I've been chomping at the bit to watch the next episode.
Gonna be
and
fun.
I can't wait to find out what.
I hope he just keeps going around flipping people off just everywhere.
Yes. Oh my God, that scene was awesome. Bugger off.
I love him. He's so sweet. Okay, other storylines. We talked a little bit about Jane and Guildford, but they went through it this episode.
Yeah, they
went
did.
from arguing and throwing water at each other. And then, like, by the end of the episodes, they're besties. They're like, we're going to be friends.
Yes.
Okay,
let's see how long that lasts, childrens.
Like you said earlier, that they have insanely good chemistry, and I think a lot of it is down to the script, because the banter, like, you need a foundation to lay your chemistry on. You can't just be googly eyes at each other. There needs to be substance. I'm looking at you, Bridgerton, when I say that.
Poke, poke, poke.
And I also think, like, now that Jane has a better understanding of what the fuck is going on with Guildford, she can finally stop calling him, like, every opportunity she's like, you're disgusting.
Yes.
Turns out he was just a horse.
Yeah, I wonder how long she's going to keep all of those insults under her belt. She referred to him as one of the most notorious rakes that is wandering around there. It's like, yeah, we all know how we feel about rakes now, don't we?
We love them, and we marry them.
Yes, we do. Yes.
Also, like, I don't know what she considers a rake, because literally everyone else in the room was getting drunker than he was. It was like, okay.
Seriously.
He's fine. And I like that now that they've got this whole thing where Guildford's acknowledged that he married her for her brain, it seems like they are actually kind of compatible.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yes.
They've had chemistry, but I feel like they have similar ideologies when it comes to, like, Athenians should be treated better. So when she's crowned queen, that's going to be their focus. I can't wait to see how the fuck they're going to hide that he's a horse when she's the Queen of England.
Yeah, better hope not to have any,
all day.
Like daytime jaunts around the city that they're supposed to be taking, because that will not go over well.
There's a new horse in the stables.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we'll ever get a scene where she rides him? You know what I mean.
Yes.
God,
yes, there is a fine line.
They picked the most, like, sexual animal it could be.
Of course.
Really upsetting for somebody who finds bestiality disgusting.
God.
Kind of random, Lord. But if Edward's granny, they're trying to work, well, great granny. They keep calling her granny. Great granny. So I'm, like, worked out that that's Margaret Beaufort. Because if you look at the family tree, Edward's dad was Henry VIII, obviously. So his granddad was Henry VII. So his great-grandmother should be icon, legend,
Margaret
overall
Beaufort.
Bad bitch, Lady Margaret Beaufort, who was played beautifully by Amanda Hale in The White Queen.
Yes.
We should do The White Queen sometime, though it was very, very disturbing.
Yeah. I would be up for it. I really enjoyed The White Queen.
So good. And it has our lovely Eleanor Tomlinson getting abused. She never has a good marriage.
Poor
she never
Angel.
gets to just be happily married. Anyway. But I then was like, shouldn't this woman be dead? His great-grandmother.
I would think so.
This show is set the year Edward dies, so I worked out that she would be 110 years old.
Oh, well, yeah. That's
unless she's like an Ethian tortoise or something. Just my theory. She survives by spending because tortoises live for like 200 years or something. There you go.
Yeah.
She's defying death. And can you just imagine him trying to talk to her while she's a tortoise?
You see her out in the barn, like slowly chewing on leaves, going,
"Hey, Grandma!
Well done, grandson.
Have some cabbage, Grandma."
Yes. Oh my God.
This show is so weird. I can see it.
It's just nuts. Mary and Lord Seymour.
Okay, well, before anything, let's talk about the fact that Mary doesn't bathe.
Yeah.
I saw
the feet. Oh.
That will haunt me forever.
That was horrible.
That was disgusting.
That was really, really horrible. And,
I heard a rumour that the real Mary the First really liked to bathe in white wine.
Ew.
I mean, at least she's bathing. Small mercies, but you know.
Yes, but still.
Ew, that's got to be so bad for your skin. It's like basically vinegar, really, at that point.
Really? Yeah. Ew.
It's going to smell.
Oh, bad, too. Thank you. I smell like a salad.
Again, it's Tudor England, so
yeah.
take the salad over some of the other smells you would have been thinking.
Yeah.
So, like, last week I thought that Lord Seymour maybe was just into Mary because she's an obvious avenue for his own power. But I think he's just into her. Like, he is love sick. And he's doing insane, murdery things for her and putting his whole life and political ambitions in jeopardy for this crazy lady. Do you think she likes him?
I think that she is merely using him for her power. You know, he is someone that can help her attain what it is that she wants, which is to be queen. I'm
out here feeling bad for this man who is trying to kill Edward. Get you a woman who bathes, Seymour.
Yes.
She definitely has like a religious zealot vibe. She's very like, we must get rid of the Ethians. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's like cartoonish. But I wonder if it stems from the whole Henry VIII marrying Anne Boleyn the Ethian. I mean,
Yeah.
I hope that's explored. That would be
really interesting to see where that goes. Because, you know, I would be totally down for Princess Elizabeth to be half Ethian or Ethian.
She should be. She's got
that would be awesome.
Blood. That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Plot twist, she just comes up. What animal do you think she could be?
I mean, it would be cliche if she came out as a lioness, which I think would be badass.
Some form of cat, though. She was like a leopard or...
A panther, that would be cool.
That would be cool. Watch her be like a house cat. Descended from them, okay? And lastly, we have to talk about Stanley and Fran.
Oh my
Stan
gosh.
and Fran, which is impossible to make a ship name from because...
Stan
and Fran.
San Francisco.
I like that the show recognised how incredibly hot Frances is. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, we all want to bang her. Well done. And I like that Stan just is like obsessed.
Yes.
Relatable.
Totally into her.
And I love that she just does not give two shits.
No. She was like, okay, I'm done. And he's like, but wait, what?
He deserves it, you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. If anybody on the show deserves it, it's him.
Love him. He's the worst. And I hope that she tortures him.
Yes.
Yeah. I hope this continues. May his fiancé be forever plagued.
Yes.
So that this can continue.
I mean, I loved how he showed up on her doorstep after discovering the will was gone. And she's like, what are you doing here? It's like, no, what?
I was a bit like, why the hell have you gone to her? He must have feelings.
Oh, yeah.
Bless him.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Stanley.
Poor angel.
I can't wait to see more of that. Okay, so historical corner time. So Tofana. So aqua tofana was a real thing, and it was a strong poison created in Sicily around 1630. The active ingredients of the mixture are known, but not how they were blended together. It contained arsenic and lead, so quite the combo. And possibly belladonna. It was a colourless, tasteless liquid, and therefore very easily mixed with water or wine to be served during meals. Those poisoned by aqua tofana reported several symptoms. The first small dose would produce mild cold-like symptoms, but by the third dose, symptoms included vomiting, dehydration, diarrhea, and a burning sensation in the digestive system. The fourth dose would usually kill the victim. As it was slow-acting, it allowed victims time to prepare for their deaths, including writing a will and repenting. Because, you know, Catholicism, woo! This poison has been associated with Julia Tofana. That's why it's named Tofana. She was a woman from Palermo who sold poison to women who wanted to murder their husbands because of domestic abuse or other forms of violence at home. By the way, that needs to be a movie.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
So Edward VI's death. Edward first became ill in January 1553 with a fever and a cough that gradually worsened. His health fluctuated back and forth until the 11th of June, when an informant in the king's household reported that, quote, the matter he ejects from his mouth is sometimes coloured a greenish yellow and black, sometimes pink, like the colour of blood. Now, his doctors believed he was suffering from a tumour of the lung and admitted that Edward's life was beyond recovery. His legs became so swollen that he had to lie on his back, and he lost the strength to resist the disease. To his tutor, John Chirk, he whispered, I am glad to die. Edward died at the age of 15 at Greenwich Palace at 8 p.m. on the 6th of July 1553. According to John Fox's account of his death, his last words were, I am faint, Lord have mercy upon me and take my spirit, end quote. So it's not very jazzy. Nothing pithy or funny, like, come on, Edward. So anyway, the cause of Edward VI's death is not certain. Many royal deaths in the 16th century aren't. Rumours of poisoning did abound, but no evidence has ever been found to support these. So the Venetian ambassador reported that Edward had died of consumption, in other words, tuberculosis, a diagnosis accepted by many historians. Loach suggests instead that his symptoms were typical of acute bronchopneumonia leading to lung abscesses, septicemia, and then eventual kidney failure. So, a fun way to go out when you're 15 years old. Okay, so Aramaic. Briefly mentioned, I was like, I've heard of that. What is that? So it's a Semitic language that originated in Syria and spread throughout the Middle East and beyond. It was at least 3,000 years old and was first spoken by the Arameans, an ancient Middle Eastern people. So Aramaic is the language of large parts of the Bible books of Daniel and Ezra. Small groups of people actually still speak Aramaic today, particularly Assyrians. So, absolutely bonkers that anybody in England, the Tudor era, would be reading anything in Aramaic.
Oh, man.
Okay, so...
Thank you for sharing.
I'm sorry for anybody who was a bit squeamish about all of the blood coughing stuff. Favorite performances?
Oh my gosh. Well, of course, I think the scene in the marital bedchamber, was fantastic. I think that the not so subtle comments from Lord Dudley, so good. I mean, the thing about this show is that, these actors and actresses who we, have seen in other roles, who are, well known within British theater and cinema, etc., are able to wind up serving lines about holding things hard firmly and softly, and just all of these just absurd lines and comments, zings and all that kind of thing. It makes every single one of those just priceless.
It's like choosing a favorite child at this point.
Yes,
they're all delightful.
Yes, it's just it's so incredible. But I loved the bedchamber, the revelation in the barn. I thought that the whole field trip into the village. The horse did a really good job,
but we got to shout out the horse.
Oh yeah,
some great horse acting.
The horse was giving looks.
He was doing blue steel at Jane for large parts of the episode.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's just it's an absolute delight to watch this. The field trip into the village, that was fantastic too. Watching how Edward was getting so excited about, oh, you're rude, how wonderful. So yeah, how about you?
Again, I love everyone. It's so hard. I think Edward was probably my favorite this week. Just watching him interact with the world was delightful. He's been my, forgive me, the dark horse of this series. I didn't realize I was going to love Edward VI so much.
Yeah.
But he's just so sweet. And I hope we get to see more of him.
Yeah. I love the way that he is able to be so sweet and a delight, but then, he will put the foot down when there's kingly stuff that needs to be done. He'll
be like, I'm going to bore you all alive.
Yeah. Or the scene where he and Jane are having their little secret meeting. And
he's like, no, I set this wedding up.
Yeah.
We're going to be fucking married.
Exactly. It's like, okay, I don't understand this, but no, this is, you're going to have to deal with this. And he's
like, if I have to deal with dying, being like, I'm getting poisoned as the king, you can deal with being married to a delightful horse.
Yes.
Like, sort your shit.
Yes. Oh, gosh.
Favorite scenes? Oh my god, Wild Thing. Wild Thing.
Oh.
Du-du.
They are so on point with the music. So on point.
The editing as well, of like
Yes.
the way it just sort of stops abruptly.
Yes. Genius.
I also really liked the scene where, you know, the final scene where Guildford finally is asking for help and he's able to open up to her. He's like been trying to tell her for like days, but he finally finishes his sentences.
Yes.
And he seemed really sincere about actually giving her the divorce, and it's like kind of impressed that she wanted her freedom. I think that's, I know the bar is on the floor for men, but that's refreshing.
Yes.
That a man actually respects her, for her mind and her autonomy. And he's like, you know what, I know we're attracted to each other and we could still have sex, but I'm not going to do that to you. So, massive respect.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I loved Jane's realization that, you know, okay, he wants me for my brain. It's kind of like, oh my god, how refreshing. there
the
are
guy
really
that
people
she's
like
been
this?
saying is a dirtbag for days. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
I think she was just impressed that he collected that many books. I suppose for the time period, it would have been quite hard to get hold of all those books.
Yeah.
So I think that's where all the money's gone. Probably. Yeah.
Costumes, hair, and makeup.
So, I mean, there's nothing really to say except that Stanley remains the most insanely dressed man I've ever seen, and I love him for it.
Oh my gosh.
If there's an opportunity for a puffy sleeve moment or shorts, some light tights, he's in it.
Stan's the man.
I wish I want another silly hat from him with a gigantic feather.
With big
That's my hope and dream for the next episode.
Well,
everyone else just looks like exactly the same.
Well, and where do you think he's getting the money for all these clothes? Since we know Lord Dudley's broke and now in jail.
I assume that's his whatever dowry he got paid for that Bavarian princess.
Oh, yes, the one that has plague and is conveniently absent.
Fingers crossed she dies so he can keep the money. Locations. So we're mostly inside the Dudley home this week for the reception. That was filmed at Broughton Castle, which I recognised from rewatching Shakespeare in Love recently. I will not apologise. That movie is sneaky good.
Oh my goodness.
It has this like beautiful plaster ceiling in the Great Hall that kept distracting me during the reception. And I googled that, and that's actually from the 18th century, so wildly inappropriate.
Okay.
But I thought it was pretty, and I loved all the tapestries. Like, well done.
Well, you know, tapestries from Florence.
You know that cost. That's where all the money went on the dolphin as well.
Yes.
The final scene, Jane and Guildford, when they're on their honeymoon. Did that room look familiar, Michelle?
I know I'm supposed to say yes.
Oh my god, we're revoking your Poldark fan card away from you.
No, please don't. Please don't.
You should have recognised it because that's where Elizabeth haunted Trenwith with her. That's the same fucking fireplace.
My gosh.
I know that fireplace anywhere. So much angst has happened against that fireplace.
I think it's because I have been forever tormented by the window.
Yeah, the window is the most.
Window.
The thing is, the outside was a completely different building.
Yes,
but I recognised the inside.
Oh,
because
God.
I'm apparently crazy.
See, now I'm going to have to watch it for the third time and try and pay attention for these things. And I think when I watch episode 3, I'm going to be paying much closer attention.
Because apparently they're just... a lot of the same locations are used in the Southwest. And we saw it in Sanditon. We saw it in Poldark, and now again.
Here we go. All right.
Okay, so music.
Oh, Lord.
My favourite personal one was the Cha Cha Twist cover right at the beginning.
Yes. But the
As
Wild Thing and Tainted Love were my 2 favorites.
So Wild Thing was a cover by Black Honey, and Tainted Love was a cover by a Goat Girl.
Goat Girl.
Great.
It's so perfect.
And then the song at the final credit scene was called Trick Pony, which I thought was just perfect.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I've used the song Pony by Genuine as the end of credits too many times, and I wish I'd saved it now. Like, this was the moment. This was what was needed.
I was honestly thinking that should have been in here, but maybe they're saving it for when they finally do the deed. Because you know it's coming.
I just don't feel like they're doing R&B or hip-hop. You know, it's not the vibe.
Oh, God. But yeah, they are so on point with music in this show.
Do you have anything you didn't like?
No. I thoroughly enjoyed it from start to finish.
I don't have anything I didn't like, but there was a moment where Stan Lee said, "in it," which is so incredibly British. I just have to point out that all of the... Like, you can tell the script's written by a British person, because you got words like numpty. And Stan going "in it" at the end of a sentence. And I was like, this is what's missing from Bridgerton. This is a Bridgerton hate podcast. But, like, the English language, when it's written by an American person, doesn't have all the weird... We have some very strange sounding insults in England. And, like, you are really losing out on the flavours. When you hire Americans.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have got numpty from an American, would you?
No.
You're never going to get plonker.
But what I think, one of the things that I used to do back in my fanfic writing days, this was more in the Harry Potter, when I was doing Harry Potter, less than Poldark. But
too historical.
I would have a friend of mine beta read for me, who was she was actually from New Zealand. But
same difference.
Yeah.
Very British.
And she would go through and check my Britishisms. Because I wanted it to sound like it was written by someone who was from England or Great Britain.
It's like maybe like 0.5% of, but it just makes the difference to like the whole flavour of the thing.
Yep.
Like, if a British person will very rarely call someone else an arsehole, they will be like, "You absolute nonce." But then, it's the little things that make
it's those that little attention to detail that really just puts the final flick of paint onto a painting. It's just really, really great.
Like the previous episode, I think the little boy called Stanley either a prick or a twat. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was something that it was very British.
Yeah. And I was like, this is what's been missing.
Yes.
I need this in my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bring back the Britishisms in Bridgerton, please.
Hire anybody who's British, maybe?
Well, yeah, that would be something, yeah.
I think the writer's room is mostly in LA, and it's just like,
Yeah. How many horseshoes?
I'm going 5, I don't care.
Me too. I was just like, okay, I went easy.
You're not going to be 7
I went hesitant last week when I was like, you should just give it a 5. I was like, nope, not going to do it. Nope, but no, 5. This was
fucking just, horse husband.
Yeah, this was just
we're in 5
genius.
Territories.
This was genius.
5 out of 5. Okay.
Inbox. Michelle and Rita. Thank you for covering My Lady Jane. I absolutely loved it, especially the soundtrack with all the female rock bands. The narration adds another saucy layer. If he wasn't so good, this series wouldn't have made any sense. I'm so enjoying you podcasting about it. I listened to your first episode and thought, oh man, I guess I'm going to have to binge the season again. Hey, we are helping with ratings,
You're welcome.
Its humor and irreverence makes it so memorable and turns the Tudor era into something hilarious instead of depressing. For real. The whole Ethian thing took me by surprise, and yeah, if I read that bit on the back cover of a book, I'm not sure I would have read it. But it somehow worked so well on screen that I actually bought the book on my Kindle. It's actually not that bad, and it does make me hope that somehow Amazon will reverse their decision not to film a season 2. I'm curious to see if you'll cover the book as well. If you haven't read it, the show only covers the first half of the book. So reading it would introduce spoilers if you are hoping for a season 2. Look forward to all your upcoming podcasts on this delicious series. Janelle from Montana. Thank you, Janelle.
Thanks, Janelle. And I think that knowing that there's more that the show hasn't covered makes me interested in the book, even though I was initially like, what the hell is this piece of crap when I read the book. I was wrong.
Tell us how you really feel, Rita.
Anamorphous. I don't like that. It creeps me out, okay? So, next email. Oh, ladies, so many great lines delivered by great actors who seem to have their comedic timing down to an art. I can't decide who I love more. Deliciously slide and calculating Lady Frances, psychotic Princess Mary, pretty, dumb, but sweet Stan, and always wonderful Lord Dudley. I would question the use of the word sweet for Stan.
Yeah.
Mr. Clop, Clop, Clop.
He is pretty and dumb.
He's kind of mean. So many short scenes that just keep bringing the laughs. The maid who tells Jane about how the lack of marital duties for women will potentially kill them if not enjoyed once or twice daily is hilarious. I mean, who wants their vapours to build up and finds to bug out? So even the maid is an actress that I've seen on Fresh Meat. She's like pretty, well, not famous, but she's like a well-established actress that they got in for a bit part, and I was like, well, and it perfect because she really sold the eyes bugging out. Yep,
she did.
She was great. Jane reprimanding Margaret. You're only 10. Beer only. As a surly Margaret complains she prefers wine. Another great cringy line from Jane. Correctamundo. It's Italian. The Fonz would be proud.
Yes.
And an honourable mention to Dr. Butts, a.k.a. the Reverend Hankins from Sanditon. He truly, grossly, in the obvious way, funny. Can we have a standing ovation for the music in the series? I mean, Wild Thing playing when Jane walks in on Guildford having a wash in the barn. Oh my. I think Jane, like all of us, was the opposite of withered. And then the big reveal. Sorry, my mind instantly went, oh, if that bucket was full of cold water, he would have been withered.
Brr.
Bless him.
Yes.
And the big reveal. Guildford is an Ethian and a horse, no less. The double meaning is fabulous. Good grief, these two will burn down the screen at some point. Can't wait, bring it on. Ciao, Maria.
Thanks, Maria.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness.
You want to read the episode 3 summary?
Oh, yes. Okay. Episode 3 summary. if one ever gets the chance to make love after being nearly killed by their cousin's soldiers while trying to save someone from a fake robbery by a deformed underclass encamped in the forests of one's divided kingdom, then one should do it.
Who wrote these? They're amazing.
Oh my god.
Holy run-on sentence Batman, but... Okay, so I feel like sexy times might come.
Maybe.
When Jane and Guilford try to save someone from a fake robbery. by the Ethians in the forest.
Yes.
Okay, that's just so specific. Usually we're like, they never give us anything, and this is too specific. I'm looking forward. That sounds sexy. And also a bit like Robin Hood, which I'm mad at. I love Robin Hood. So, that sounds fun. And
yes,
that's all from us. We'll be back next week discussing episode 3 of the show. If you want to get involved in the podcast, email us at inthebooksnetwork.com. We're on Instagram, so please follow if you want fun bonus content and updates on the podcast. If you enjoyed, please rate, review, and tell your friends about this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, and we will see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.